Hello, Dave Hurwitz at ClassicsToday.com here with the best recordings of Handel's Opus 6 Concerti Grossi for strings. Now, these works really represent the apotheosis of the Baroque concerto grosso. That is, a piece of instrumental music in which the larger group of strings is opposed to a smaller group of soloists, and they switch back and forth playing the thematic material, and they occasionally indulge in solos and slow movements and whatnot. The larger group was called the Concerto Grosso, that is the big group, and the smaller group was called the Concertino, or the little group. This was perfect for Handel because Handel, of course, didn't really care about any sort of formal constraints or rules as to what he could or couldn't do. And the idea of having a group of strings that he could detach at will and exploit however he pleased allowed him to experiment with string textures and basically do whatever he thought sounded wonderful, and wonderful they are. Now, these works were written mostly as interlude music between the performance of Handel's theatrical works, and so we're not exactly sure which pieces he wrote them for, but we do know, for example, the Eighth Concerto Grosso, the Adagio, quotes the aria Piangero from Julius Caesar. You know, Piangero, piangero, la sorta mia, si crudele. Anyway, I'm not going to sing it. It's for Cleopatra. And one thing I am not is a Cleopatra. I tried. Anyway, the bottom line is these works are the most beautiful Baroque explorations of the possibilities of the string ensemble of the day. And they really have had very, very few poor recordings. I suppose the only thing you could do to ruin them would be to take them too slowly and to play them without the necessary rhythmic crispness and the quick movements and, the lyrical sonority and the slow movements, including vibrato, folks. It needs to have a warm, human, singing, lyrical tune when that's what Handel does. But the fact of the matter is, everyone's kind of understood that, and most of the time they manage to do it, even the period instrument folks, as we'll be talking about in a moment. I have a half a dozen recordings here, sitting here in the pile, and some sitting back in storage. One of the great ones, which I don't have with me right now, and I just want to mention it, is the Orpheus Chamber Ensemble, the Orpheus Chamber Orchestra on Deutsche Grammophon. That is a great set, and it didn't get a lot of play when it first came out, but it definitely deserves your consideration. In fact, if anyone is listening over at DG, the Orpheus Chamber Orchestra needs a big box of all the Orpheus Chamber Orchestra stuff that it did for DG, because it's just an amazing legacy of superior instrumental playing. But now let's talk about some of the other things that I have beside me here. First, this is an old one, a classic. I don't know if you've heard it because it stylistically has sort of gone out of fashion, but it's by no means unidiomatic or unstylish. This is Raymond Leppard, or Lepard, or however his name changed in the course of his career. But this is with the English Chamber Orchestra, the complete orchestral works of Handel. This is a wonderful set on Philips. It's absolutely beautifully done and sympathetic in every way, and the playing is just terrific. There's not a lot more you can say about performances of these works because that's really what they require and all they need. There are no tricks in Handel, none at all. You just play it as well as you possibly can, and it's going to go. One thing about these works, though, that you do have to consider is that, the 12 concertos in this set, they last just about 3 hours. There's a lot of music in here. Handel always wrote a lot of notes. I mean, he was a notey guy, and he had no concerns with things like, keeping it short and brief. He wanted to give people their money's worth. And so all of his music has an abundance of melody, an abundance of all those wonderful, juicy musical qualities that make you want to keep listening. They have that improvisatory freedom that's just wonderful. And the only thing you can do to wreck them is play them with this sort of, anal retentive inhibition that a lot of period instrument players do, coincidentally. I don't think that I've heard really, like I said, many poor performances of these works, though. Neville Mariner with the Academy of St. Martin in the Fields. You know, they did these a couple times. The performances are just terrific. I don't think that there's really any need to go into the technicalities of, whether they are using, Baroque instruments or modern instruments or future instruments. They're just good performances. It sounds great. That's all you need to know. However, as we get into the more modern period, as a result of the period instrument revolution, a few things did happen. I think tempos picked up a little bit, rhythms got a little more crisp, perhaps a little more emphatic. Continuo parts, I think, were a bit more highly developed. That could be a good thing or a bad thing. One of the few ways you can ruin these pieces is to allow the harpsichord continuo to become a concerto, which it never, ever, ever should be. It should remain in the background. And if you've ever heard a Baroque ensemble in real life, live, especially one for a large string section, which is what Handel clearly intended, because you have to oppose the larger group to the smaller group. One of the things you'll notice is that a harpsichord continuo is usually very barely audible. It's not supposed to be front and center. Unfortunately, on recordings, especially those on period instruments, the harpsichord player is often the conductor or leader, and since they didn't have conductors in those days, and often they can't resist the opportunity to show off, and that's a mistake. It's just a mistake. It gives the continuo far too much prominence in the mix, and in recordings, since you can balance these things artificially as opposed to naturally, there's a temptation to over spotlight the harpsichord. That's about the only thing that I think you need to worry about in period instrument performances. This is a new recording, a modern recording, with the Avastin Ensemble under Kevin Mallon on Naxos. It's extremely fine. The playing is as crisp and lively as you could ask for. The string texture is beautifully tuned, and the whole thing goes like clockwork. And that's about all we need to know about that one. Next, we do a couple period instrument ones. You see, I'm not an enemy of period instruments. I'm an enemy of bad playing, and I'm an enemy of bad performances. And as long as it's a great performance, I don't give a damn what they're playing it on. It just has to be a great performance, beautifully played and interpreted. And here is definitely one. The Avastin Ensemble on Lynn. These are really, really well recorded. Some might find the actual string group to be a little bit on the small side, which means the textures are a little bit lean and perhaps a touch more acerbic than you like, but there's no questioning the quality of the performances. Next on the period instrument front, Andrew Manzi with the Academy of Ancient Music. Now, of course, Hogwood did them, Pinnock did them. They're fine. If you've got them, enjoy them. They're like I said, they're not the kind of works that are going to fool any of these people. They know the style, they know the music, they know how to play it. But Andrew Manzi really knows the style, really knows the music, and really knows how to play it. This is one of the best things he ever did with the Academy of Ancient Music. It's on Harmonia Mundi. It's an absolutely beautiful set. Finally, last but not least, we all have to make the choice. And my go-to set, my favorite set, is this one, I Musici di Montreal under Yuli Turovsky on Chandos. It's modern instruments, but it's obviously influenced by notions of style and idiom that have seeped into everybody's playing of this music now. The sonics are glorious, and for me, this set just has an energy, a vibrancy, a life that's very, very special, and that seems to me to breathe the spirit of Handel. So if you're looking for a great set of the Opus 6 Concerti Grossi, and you're not, don't make a fetish out of period instruments, modern instruments, whatever they are, just the best instruments, I suggest I Musici di Montreal on Chandos with Turovsky. You absolutely can't go wrong, and either way, you will enjoy these glorious, glorious concerti, and I know you're going to keep on listening. Thank you.